If you're enjoying this tale from the dusty trails of the Old West, please hit that like button and subscribe to our channel for more stories of courage, justice, and redemption from America's frontier days. Your support helps us bring these forgotten legends to life. The morning sun cast golden rays across the settlement of Bone Creek as Marshal Jake Thompson rode into town. His weathered face bore the marks of countless battles, and his steel-gray eyes held the weight of justice served cold. The town before him was a collection of modest buildings bathed in warm sunlight. Thompson had been tracking the notorious Blackwood gang for 3 months. These weren't ordinary outlaws. They dealt in human misery, trafficking souls across state lines like cattle. The marshal's jaw tightened as he remembered the reports. Families torn apart, children vanishing, women disappearing without a trace. The saloon doors swung open with a gentle creak that echoed through the peaceful street. Inside, soft morning light filtered through dusty windows, creating a serene atmosphere. Thompson's spurs jingled softly against the wooden floor as he approached the bar. The bartender, a thin man with tired but kind eyes, looked up from cleaning glasses. Behind him, a figure stirred in the corner booth. Thompson's hand instinctively moved closer to his Colt .45. Years of hunting dangerous men had taught him to trust his instincts, and right now, every nerve in his body was alert to potential danger. The woman who emerged from the shadows took Thompson's breath away. Despite the weariness that marked her features, she was undeniably beautiful. Her auburn hair caught the morning light like spun gold, and her green eyes held depths that spoke of both suffering and unbroken spirit. She wore a simple blue dress that had seen better days, but her natural grace made it seem elegant. She approached slowly, each step deliberate and measured. When she spoke, her voice was soft but clear, carrying the weight of untold pain. The words that escaped her lips would haunt Thompson for the rest of his days. "I have no name, only scars from my master," she said, her voice trembling like autumn leaves in the wind. Thompson noticed the way she held herself with dignity despite everything, as if refusing to let her spirit be completely broken. Her hands, delicate yet marked with calluses, spoke of hard labor endured with quiet strength. Thompson had seen many victims in his years as a lawman, but something about this woman struck him differently. There was a resilience in her beauty, a light that refused to be extinguished despite whatever injustices she had endured at the hands of Marcus Blackwood. "Ma'am," Thompson said, tipping his hat respectfully, "my name is Marshal Jake Thompson. I'm here about the Blackwood gang. If you know anything about them, I need to hear it." His voice was gentle but firm, the tone of a man who had learned to balance compassion with determination. The woman's eyes widened with a mixture of fear and hope. She glanced nervously toward the stairs leading to the upper floor of the saloon. Thompson followed her gaze and noticed armed men positioned strategically throughout the establishment. This wasn't a chance encounter. "He took me from my family's ranch 2 years ago," she continued, her voice growing stronger with each word. "I watched him burn everything I ever loved. My parents, my little sister. They didn't survive his cruelty." Despite the tears threatening to fall, she maintained her composure with remarkable grace. Thompson felt his anger building like a storm on the horizon. Marcus Blackwood's reputation for cruelty was well documented, but hearing it firsthand from this beautiful, suffering woman made his blood boil. His hand tightened on his gun grip, but he forced himself to remain calm. "What's your real name?" Thompson asked softly. The question seemed to surprise her, as if no one had asked in years. She looked at him with wonder, as though he had offered her something precious that she had long forgotten existed. "Sarah," she whispered after a long pause. "Sarah Bell Mitchell. But Marcus Blackwood, he said names were for free people. Said I was his property now, nothing more than another prize in his collection." Her voice cracked slightly, but she maintained her dignity with admirable strength. Thompson had heard enough. Marcus Blackwood was the leader of the gang, a man whose cruelty was legendary even among outlaws. The marshal had been hunting him for good reason. This wasn't just about justice anymore. Seeing this beautiful woman suffering made it deeply personal. "Sarah Bell Mitchell," Thompson said, using her full name deliberately. "You're not property. You're a human being with rights and dignity, and I'm here to make sure Marcus Blackwood pays for the injustices he's done to you and countless others." His words carried the weight of a sworn oath. Suddenly, the saloon doors burst open, letting in a flood of bright sunlight before three armed men entered. Thompson recognized them immediately from wanted posters. The Blackwood gang had found them. Sarah stepped back instinctively, but her chin remained raised defiantly as she recognized her captors. "Well, well," called out the tallest of the three, his voice dripping with menace. "Looks like our little beauty has been singing to the law. Marcus ain't gonna be happy about this, Sarah Bell. You know what happens when you disappoint him." Thompson stepped protectively in front of Sarah, his hand hovering over his weapon. "Marshal Jake Thompson," he announced. "You men are under arrest for human trafficking, kidnapping, and numerous other charges. Surrender your weapons now." The outlaws laughed, but Thompson noticed the nervous glances they exchanged. His reputation as a gunfighter preceded him, and these men knew they were facing someone dangerous. The tension in the bright room was palpable. "You got some brass coming in here alone, Marshal," the leader sneered. "But you're outnumbered and outgunned. Best thing you can do is ride away and pretend you never saw nothing. The girl belongs to Marcus, and that's how it's gonna stay." Sarah found her voice again, speaking with newfound courage. "I belong to no one," she said firmly, her beauty now enhanced by fierce determination. "I'm Sarah Bell Mitchell, and I choose to stand with the marshal." Her transformation was remarkable, as if speaking her name had reminded her of who she truly was. The standoff stretched on for what felt like hours, but was probably only seconds. Thompson calculated his odds, knowing that protecting this brave, beautiful woman was his top priority. These men were killers, but they were also cowards who preyed on the innocent. The first shot rang out when one of the outlaws made the mistake of reaching for his gun. Thompson's draw was lightning fast, his Colt barking twice in rapid succession. Two men dropped before they could clear leather, while the third dove for cover behind an overturned table. Sarah gasped and dropped gracefully to the floor as bullets flew overhead. Thompson moved with practiced precision, using the bar for cover while keeping himself between the remaining gunman and Sarah. Years of experience had taught him to stay calm under fire. "Give it up!" Thompson called out. "Your friends are dead, and more law is coming. Surrender now, and maybe you'll live to see trial." It was partly a bluff, as Thompson was indeed alone, but the outlaw didn't need to know that. The remaining gunman, wounded and desperate, made a last desperate gamble. He burst from cover with guns blazing, but his shots went wild. Thompson's return fire was precise and final. The saloon fell silent, except for the gentle breeze through the open doors. Sarah slowly raised her head, looking around at the scene with wide eyes. Thompson holstered his weapon and helped her to her feet, his touch gentle despite his rough appearance. "It's over," he said softly. "You're safe now." But even as he spoke the words, Thompson knew their troubles were far from over. These three were just soldiers in Marcus Blackwood's army. The real enemy was still out there, and he would be furious when he learned what had happened to his men. "He'll come for me," Sarah said, reading Thompson's thoughts. "Marcus doesn't let anyone go, especially not someone he considers his prized possession. He'll bring his whole gang, and he'll make an example of both of us." Despite her fear, there was determination in her voice that hadn't been there before. Thompson nodded grimly. "Let him come. I've been hunting Marcus Blackwood for months, and now he's coming to me. That makes things simpler." He checked his weapons, reloading with practiced efficiency, while scanning the saloon for additional threats. As they prepared to leave the sunlit saloon, Sarah grabbed Thompson's arm. "Marshal, there are others. Marcus has a whole camp full of women. If we don't stop him, They'll suffer the same injustices I did, or worse." Thompson's expression hardened. "Then we'll stop him, all of them. But first we need to get you somewhere safe. This fight doesn't have to be yours anymore, Sarah Bell. You've suffered enough." His protective instincts were in full force now. "No," Sarah said with surprising firmness, her beauty now complemented by steel resolve. "This is exactly my fight. I know his habits, his weaknesses, where he keeps the others. You need me, Marshal, and they need me too. I won't hide while others suffer what I've endured." Thompson studied her face, seeing the strength beneath her delicate features. 2 years of injustice hadn't broken her spirit. It had forged it into something stronger. He made a decision that would change both their lives forever. "All right, Sarah Bell Mitchell," he said with respect. "If you're determined to see this through, then we'll see it through together. But understand, once we start this path, there's no turning back. Marcus Blackwood and his gang won't show mercy." Sarah's response was to pick up one of the fallen outlaw's guns, checking the cylinder with surprising familiarity. "He never showed me mercy, Marshal. It's time he learned what justice feels like." Her transformation from victim to warrior was complete, but her inherent beauty remained undimmed. They rode through the afternoon sunshine, following tracks that led deeper into the canyon lands. Sarah proved to be an invaluable guide, knowing the terrain from her years of forced travel with the gang. She pointed out hidden water sources and safe places to rest, her knowledge invaluable. As evening approached, painting the sky in soft pastels, they spotted smoke rising from a hidden valley. "That's it," Sarah whispered, her voice tight with emotion. "That's where he keeps them all. There must be 15 women there, maybe more." Thompson studied the camp through his field glasses. Armed guards patrolled the perimeter, while others lounged around cooking fires. In the center sat a large tent that could only belong to Marcus Blackwood himself. The sight of the injustice below filled Thompson with cold determination. "We can't take them all head-on," Thompson said quietly. "We'll need to be smart about this. Tell me about the daily routines, the guard changes, anything that might give us an advantage." He was already formulating a plan in his mind. Sarah closed her eyes, remembering details she had tried so hard to forget. "Marcus always takes his evening meal at sunset, alone in his tent. The guards get complacent then, thinking he's safe, and there's a back trail that leads to the women's quarters. They spent the twilight hours preparing, checking weapons and planning their approach." Thompson noticed how Sarah had changed throughout the day. The broken woman from the saloon was gone, replaced by someone with steel in her spine and fire in her beautiful eyes. The rescue began at sunset, when Thompson created a diversion at the main camp, while Sarah slipped around to free the captives. Gunfire erupted as Thompson faced down 6 armed men, his shooting skills legendary for good reason. Meanwhile, Sarah worked frantically to release the other prisoners. Many were in worse condition than she had been, some barely able to walk. But they found strength in each other, helping the weakest as they made their escape through the golden evening light. Marcus Blackwood emerged from his tent like a demon disturbing paradise, his scarred face twisted with rage. "You cost me a fortune, Mitchell," he roared, firing wildly at Thompson. "Those women were my most valuable possessions." The final gunfight was brutal but decisive. Thompson and Blackwood circled each other in the fading light, each looking for an opening. "You think you're some kind of hero?" Blackwood snarled, blood trickling from a wound on his arm. "These women need masters like me." "They need freedom and justice," Thompson replied coldly, his gun steady despite the chaos around them. Behind Blackwood, Sarah appeared with the freed women, all of them bearing witness to this moment of reckoning. Blackwood made his final mistake when he tried to use one of the women as a human shield. Sarah's shot rang out first, striking the outlaw's gun hand. Thompson's follow-up shot ended Marcus Blackwood's reign of terror forever. The surviving gang members threw down their weapons. In the days that followed, Thompson helped coordinate the return of all the freed captives to their families. Many had been missing for years, their loved ones having given up hope. The reunions were tearful and joyous, healing wounds that had festered too long. Sarah chose to stay with Thompson as his deputy, her intimate knowledge of criminal networks proving invaluable. Together, they tracked down other trafficking operations, freeing dozens more victims and bringing justice to forgotten corners of the frontier. Their reputations spread like wildfire across the territories. The Mitchell-Thompson duo became legends whispered around campfires and in saloons from Texas to California. Criminals learned to fear the sound of their horses' hooves, while victims of injustice came to see them as symbols of hope. One particularly beautiful spring, they tracked a new gang that had emerged to fill the void left by Blackwood's death. Led by a cruel woman known only as the Widow, this group specialized in stealing children from immigrant families crossing the frontier. The case hit Sarah particularly hard, reminding her of her own lost sister. She threw herself into the investigation with fierce determination, following leads through blooming meadows and across crystal streams. Thompson watched with admiration as his partner's skills continued to evolve. They finally cornered the widow and her gang in an abandoned mining town high in the Colorado mountains, where spring flowers dotted the landscape. The confrontation was unlike anything they had faced before. The widow was cunning, using the children as leverage in a deadly game. "You think you understand suffering, Mitchell?" The widow called out from her fortified position in the old mine office. "I've seen things that would drive you mad. Those children are better off with me than facing the cruelties of this world." Sarah's response echoed across the mountain air. "I know injustice intimately, but I also know something you've forgotten: hope. These children deserve the chance to write their own stories, not have them written by someone else's pain." The siege lasted 2 days, with both sides taking casualties. Thompson's tactical expertise, combined with Sarah's understanding of criminal psychology, proved decisive. They systematically dismantled the widow's defenses while protecting the innocent lives caught in the crossfire. In the final moments, the widow made a desperate attempt to escape with the children, but Sarah anticipated the move. The confrontation ended, not with gunfire, but with Sarah talking the widow into surrender, recognizing the broken woman beneath the criminal exterior. "I see myself in you," Sarah told her adversary as she placed the handcuffs. "The difference is I chose to heal rather than spread my wounds to others. It's not too late for you to make that choice too." As they escorted the freed children back to their families through sun-dappled forests, Thompson marveled at how completely Sarah had transformed. The woman who once whispered that she had no name now stood as a beacon of justice, helping others find their own strength. Months later, as they rode toward their next mission through golden wheat fields, Sarah reflected on her journey. "You know, Marshall, I used to think my suffering defined me. Now I see it as proof that I survived, that I'm stronger than what tried to break me." Thompson nodded, understanding the profound truth in her words. "Sarah Bell Mitchell," he said with pride, "you've become one of the finest lawmen I've ever known. Your past doesn't define you, your choices do, and you've chosen to be a force for good." Their adventures continued for years, each case adding to their legend. They faced down corrupt sheriffs, rescued countless victims, and brought justice to lawless towns from Mexico to Canada. But perhaps their greatest achievement was proving that the worst injustices could be transformed into the greatest triumphs. The desert sun set behind them as they rode toward new adventures, two souls forged by hardship into instruments of justice. Sarah had not only reclaimed her name, but had become a legend in her own right, proving that even the darkest injustice could not extinguish the light of human dignity. Years would pass, and tales would be told of the marshal and his beautiful deputy who cleaned up the worst corners of the frontier. But Sarah would always remember that it began with a simple truth. She had a name, she had worth, and no amount of injustice could ever take that away again. Sarah never forgot the lesson of her identity, and she made sure every person they rescued understood the same truth. Names couldn't be stolen, dignity couldn't be destroyed, and hope could never truly die as long as someone was willing to fight for justice. What do you think gave Sarah the strength to finally stand up to her captors after years of injustice? Share your thoughts in the comments below about what transforms someone from victim to warrior, and let us know what other tales from the Old West you'd like to hear next.